Hello, and welcome to the City of Ottawa podcast series, OttaTalk, where we talk with staff and residents about city programs, projects, and initiatives. Today, we OttaTalk about OC Transpo's Transit Operations Control Center, or better known as the TOCC. It might look like it's pronounced talk, and we want to talk about the talk, but it's actually pronounced TOCC. We'll talk about it anyway.
Our theme music to start the show is Elevation by John Dorsch. We start and end every podcast with a local artist featured on the City Sounds playlist on SoundCloud. You can find a link to our playlist in our show notes, and you'll hear more from John Dorsch at the end of the podcast. One more reason to stay tuned until the end. My name is Mike Reed. I'm a media relations officer with the City of Ottawa.
And I'm Shirley Mann. I'm an operational excellence strategist in the Department of Public Works. So I get to work on leadership development with our leaders.
And I get to help the media get their news stories published.
I'm so excited to do another episode with you, Mike.
Oh, me too.
Let's have some fun.
All right.
So today we're excited to talk to you about the Transit Operations Control Center. This is considered the communications nerve center of OC Transpo. We are going to answer questions like, who works in there? How does the team respond to situations on the fly? And we're going to give you a sneak peek of how it looks and sounds in there on a busy day. To answer some of these questions, we're going to be joined by Brad Tubman. So stay tuned, Ottawa. We're going to show you how our transit system works behind the scenes to keep the city and you moving.
But before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. Any city programs or services we talk about today will be in the program notes wherever you're streaming this podcast, or you can search for them on the city website, ottawa.ca. The program notes also have a link to the city's YouTube channel where you can find our entire podcast archive. If you have a comment or question about any of our podcasts, send us a message at podcast-balado@ottawa.ca. So, Shirley, what's your experience with transit?
I am so proud to say I have a lot of experience with public transit. I actually grew up on public transit in Toronto, so I grew up on the TTC. And I can't wait to nerd out on this topic. My mom, what I remember is my mom would pick me up from school after her work shift ended, and she would nap while we were riding transit home. And it became my responsibility to count the stops to make sure we got off at the right station to get home. So it gave me a sense of slight paranoia as a child, but also I think it helps young people develop their sense of independence. It helps you build a sense of independence before you can drive. You have to learn how to figure out schedules. You have to organize your time appropriately. And there's nothing more character building than standing in the rain, waiting for your ride to like band practice. So I love public transit, and I support it wholeheartedly.
That's fascinating to me. I grew up in a place that had very limited public transit, so any city that takes their transit seriously is really impressive to me.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, let's learn some more. Let's tell you a little bit about our guest speaker today. Before joining OC Transpo, Brad Tubman spent 15 years with FedEx and the last 10 as the senior manager overseeing operations in Ottawa and Northern Ontario. Brad's been with OC Transpo for 16 years and joined the TOCC branch in 2018. And since April of 2024, he has been the TOCC manager. Brad, welcome to OttaTalk.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, we're happy to have you. So, Brad, we want to hear a little bit about you first before we dive into the topic. You have an honors BA in history from Wilfrid Laurier University. I actually am also a Wilfrid Laurier University graduate.
Excellent.
So nice to meet a fellow alumni.
Go Golden Hawks.
There we go. Yeah, go Golden Hawks. And you also worked at FedEx for a long time. So in what ways does your degree, or in what ways does your past experience at FedEx apply to the work that you do now?
So I'll start by saying, my degree probably doesn't help a whole lot. So I graduated, as you said, from Wilfrid Laurier University, 1994. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And funny, at that time, it was very similar probably to kind of times right now for people coming out of university. There was a recession at the time, kind of tough getting a job at that point. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I was hired. I was applying everywhere. I was back in Ottawa and I was applying to jobs everywhere. And I applied to a job at FedEx, was looking for a service manager position. And I got a call and I went there and I got hired there. And so I just packed up and moved to Toronto. And I ended up being at FedEx for 15 years. I was in Toronto for a few years. Then I had the opportunity to come back to Ottawa to be the station manager. And then ultimately that expanded a little bit too, to look after Ottawa as well as Northern Ontario as well. Obviously, it's private transportation and not public transit. However, very similar in that the key topics are really the same. And so safety was the top priority there. It is our top priority here at OC Transpo. But service delivery also, that was very much, those are the two key things that overlap. And those were the two most important things at FedEx. And those are the two most important things at OC Transpo for us also in the TOCC, is operating safely, but as well as delivering service to our customers. So there is a lot of good overlap between the two.
And it's navigating two large fleets, right?
Absolutely. And so at FedEx, the numbers were smaller than what we have here. We run a really large operation at OC Transpo with almost 800 buses. We have 3 different train lines, really complex operation. FedEx was a little bit, obviously smaller. We had a lower number of trucks, but we were also dealing with tractor trailers and there were planes involved too. And although I wasn't really much involved in that part of the business, but yes, a very big overlap between the two. They're much more similar than what you might think.
It's excellent to hear about the connections between and across industries where you wouldn't necessarily think that there are sort of transferable skills and whatnot. But in this case, there really is. Yes,
absolutely. And it was a good company to work for, learned a lot. And the reason I left there after 15 years, just because I was getting opportunities to move. I was as high as I could be in the organization within Ottawa, and I was getting opportunities to move to other locations, some in the US, some at different parts of Canada. And my wife and I were very settled here. I'm from here and my family's been from Ottawa for quite some time. And so we wanted to stay here. And so there was an opportunity that came up at OC Transpo. And it did seem like the skills overlapped. And so I applied for it and I was hired, and it's been great. It's been 16 years since that happened, and great organization to work for. I've had multiple positions in that time, and it's been a really good move.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we're lucky to have you. So there are over 300,000 daily customer trips on conventional transit in Ottawa, over 878,000 paratranspo trips per year. So, and in spite of all those numbers, in spite of all that ridership, most of our listeners actually would never have heard of the TOCC. So tell us a little bit about what happens in there.
Sure, absolutely. So the Transit Operations Control Center, I'm going to keep referring to this as the TOCC, as you have mentioned also. So the TOCC at OC Transpo, it, like you said, it is the central management hub responsible for overseeing all of the transit service provided at OC Transpo. And it's very important. It plays a very important role. We're responsible for monitoring and reporting and overseeing all of the service that's provided. And that includes our bus service, our rail service on lines 1, 2, and 3. We have 3 rail lines now, as well as paratranspo service. So there's really 3 core functions that I would say that we perform in the TOCC. And first of all, and this is really the key duty that we perform, we provide real-time service management for, as I said, for O trains line 1, 2, and 4, as well as our extensive bus network and our paratranspo service. And so we provide that oversight both from the control room, and we also, our team also manages our mobile supervisors, the team that you might see out on the street. We manage them as well. They work very closely with us in the TOCC. And then second, another really key important function that we provide, we are responsible for the operational communication at OC Transpo. So we receive into the control room, we receive tens of thousands of calls monthly from bus and rail operators. Especially during high demand periods, like if we're in snowstorms, if there's really big special events going on. And then we get a lot of these calls. Our controllers, they are fantastic. They provide really quick, efficient instructions back to operators. And everything is designed to maintain safe operations and service reliability.
So if I'm on a bus and I'm near the driver and there's an announcement over their radio to them, driver is talking back to someone, that's going to the TOCC.
Yes, absolutely.
And what kind of information are they getting?
So they could be getting information. There could be many different reasons why the operator is contacting control. There could be a service. They could be calling in to say they're running late. It could be to say that there's a bus defect of some sort that needs attention. There could be a disturbance on board the bus of some sort. It could be a lost and found item on the bus. There's many different reasons that they could be calling in. We want to know in the control room everything that's happening on there, that if it's impacting service to customers, we want to know what it is. Some things we might not be able to do anything about, but we still want to know. If a bus is running 10 minutes late or 15 minutes late, we want to know that, and we want the operator to call that in or to notify the TOCC. And sometimes we can there's mitigations we can take to correct that. Other times there aren't, but we manage the big picture of all of the service in the TOCC, and we still want to know everything that's going on out on our buses and on our trains.
Okay, so I'm starting to get a picture of what it would look like in the TOCC. But what about like a busy day? What's the room like when there's a major event like Canada Day or Blues Fest, something of that nature?
Yeah. So so those are the most exciting days in the room, actually. Yeah, absolutely. So during major special events or extreme weather, the TOCC, we are responsible for ensuring we provide optimum service for both rail and bus. Even though the circumstances get more difficult, we are still responsible, and we take that upon ourselves to make sure that we are still providing that optimum service for passengers. I'll use Canada Day. That's our biggest service day of the year, where we see the highest number of passengers of any day during the year. That's kind of our Super Bowl. And as you probably see, if you're using our service on that day, hopefully you are using our service on that day. Thousands and thousands of people are relying on our service. And on a day like that, our control room would receive up to 10,000 calls over the radio from bus or train operators. It just would be a constant buzzing of activity within the room. For example, similar to what you just asked me about, Mike, there would be calls coming in reporting passenger disruptions, medicals, collisions that require unplanned detours, operators that calling in they're running late or that they're at capacity, or possibly, and hopefully not, but there could be mechanical defects they're calling in if they require a service truck. It just would be constant interactions from our controllers with the bus and rail operators, just to try to resolve every issue that they're experiencing out there. There's also many planned detours in place on Canada Day. So we receive lots of radio calls from operators confirming they have the correct routing. And I'll just mention Blues Fest too. That's really big time of the year for us too. Comes right after, of course, Canada Day. And that's really busy too. We consider those, like there's 9 nights of Blues Fest. They're almost like 9 mini Canada Day operations. So they are big. We move thousands of attendees who rely on us to get them to the event site and then home safely afterwards. There's other big events we see too from time to time. A couple of years ago, there was the Joe Biden visit. That was really big. There was the convoy. Of course, everyone remembers the convoy in Ottawa downtown back in 2022. That had a really big impact on our operations. During events like those, or for major weather events, we activate what we call our Service Command Center. And so that's a room, it's located right beside the TOCC, and we consider it part of the TOCC. It's a separate room right beside. So it's a room set up with video wall screens showing CCTV camera footage of either our stations or bus or rail platforms. Or possibly the City of Ottawa traffic management cameras also. And when we activate the Service Command Center, we bring in management staff from all the different departments at OC Transpo. We are together in one room, and we can make real-time decisions for any unexpected events that are taking place. And so really what we're doing when in these really big events, we're essentially requesting the support from other departments at OC Transpo to either help us make decisions or to optimize our service level somehow. And I can give you a couple of examples if you'd like about
Sure.
the type of so here's a couple of, so let's say on Canada Day, we will be in the SCC, our Service Command Center. We may see on CCTV footage, or we may hear from someone out at the different stations. For example, there could be passengers that are getting off line 1 at Pimisi Station. They're confused. They don't know how to get to the event site. So we see that on CCTV. In our Service Command Center, we'll have a customer outreach manager right there, just around the table, just kind of like one of the, like here. And we have that ability right there. That customer outreach manager right there can get outreach staff right there to that station to start directing traffic, start directing customers to the proper locations. Or another example could be, we could see, again, CCTV cameras that there are drunk and disorderly people, say at Rideau Station, for example, and not to say that ever happens, but we would have a manager from our Special Constable Unit right there at the table, and we could request some Special Constables attend to provide kind of a safe environment for our customers right then and there.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you for all this detail about the TOCC. And we did want to talk a little bit about how you maintain 24/7 monitoring of everything happening in OC Transpo on any given day. You've talked to us a little bit about, the extensive surveillance system. It sounds like there's thousands of CCTV cameras located throughout the transit network that you just mentioned. Can you expand on this a little bit? Can you help us paint a picture of what it looks like inside? I'm a very visual person, so I'm trying to imagine
like inside the room, or
yeah. Tell us about the room. How big is it? How many people are in there? How do you how do you monitor all this?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, I'll say we're located at 875 Belfast, so we're right beside the big OC Transpo admin building at 1500 Saint Laurent. But within the room, so when you walk in the room, there are really 6 functional areas in the room. So you walk in, and say on this extreme right is our Special Constable Communications area. So this is the area that supports safety and security at OC Transpo. So that's their primary focus. So they're right in the room. They have 8 different consoles, or like desks, and they have their communications officers right there. They are responding to security calls from employees or for passengers that are on the street, and they're getting those calls from either the emergency phone boxes that are at stations, or panic buttons, or online reports that come in. So they interact directly with OC Transpo has special constables who are out on the street. The communications officers interact directly with them and request their support if needed for any incident that's going on out there, such as passenger disturbances, medicals, disorderly behavior. These happen every day, multiple times every day. They also monitor, there's over 2,400 CCTV cameras in our network, and those could be traffic cameras, but we also have cameras at our buses and rail stations, and those comms officers are they're monitoring those to watch out for passenger safety. Comms officer is also the group that interacts directly with City of Ottawa emergency services like OPS or Ottawa Fire, or paramedics. They're the ones who make those calls. They're the link between the bus controllers or the rail controllers and those emergency services. And we rely upon them to interact with those services because we need them every day, multiple times. So that's that. And then that to the left of them, if you're looking in the room, is our bus control area. And that's the biggest part of the room. And that area manages our bus service and our paratranspo operations. And so this includes 9 consoles. We have video walls up right on the walls that, again, are showing traffic and GPS maps, so the controllers can look if there's anything in particular that they need to see. That's right up there in front of them. During peak periods, each controller would manage about 200 buses each. And we receive over 35,000 calls per month from operators into control for assortment of issues, some of which I've already mentioned, but include onboard security incidences, running late, mechanical defects, lost and found, passenger medicals, any assistance that the operators need, they would call into control. And I will mention too, part of the bus control area also includes a fleet maintenance supervisor. And so that's someone who is from our garage. They maintain our fleet of buses. And as I said, we have almost 800 buses. And so it's very important. We have a fleet supervisor right there in the bus control area. They can provide mechanical support if needed. If there is a call about a bus defect, we've got an expert right there, and they can advise us whether the bus can continue or whether we need to remove it from service and we need to send a service truck. So yes, very important. To the left of the bus control area is our rail control area. And this is actually divided into two because we have two different rail lines, of course, in Ottawa. We have our Confederation line and our Trillium line. And each of the different lines have three separate consoles. So there's a total of 6. And so on the Confederation line, we have what we call our mainline controller. And this is a very crucial person. This controller manages all train movements on line 1, any kind of guideway access, emergency services plans, or if there's any, hopefully not, but if there's a disruption of some sort, they are the ones that are managing that. To the right of that person, we have what's called a SCADA console, and very important also for safety purposes. This is a controller who's managing traction power, tunnel ventilation, fire alarms. That person coordinates emergency responses when needed. So very, very important.
Can I ask you a question? You said
Yes.
a SCADA control. Is that an acronym?
Yes.
What does that stand for?
Supervisory control and data acquisition.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so that wouldn't be so that would be other transit agencies would have the same person responsible for these kind of issues. Very, very important. And then also the third would be our communications console. And so this is a controller that operates our public address and passenger information display systems and that person monitors CCTV cameras at rail stations also. So a little bit similar to the SCU comms officers, but these folks are looking directly just at the rail station. They don't want people to get too close to the trains or too close to the platforms. And if they do see something like that, they'll actually go on the PA announce and make an announcement, specific station's platform, asking customers to please move back. And there's another area, which is our communications coordinator. So this person communicates internally to other people, other departments at OC Transpo, everything that's occurring out at in service. So it could include, it would include regular service updates throughout the day, but then it will also include any ad hoc communications of things that are going on out there, anything unplanned that's taking place, and every day there's unplanned things. So detours, demonstrations, protests, collisions that impact our service. That person, and that area staff 16 hours a day, 2 shifts, that person is communicating internally at OC Transpo. We also have another area.
It sounds like a big room. It sounds like a really big room.
We also have a customer communications officer, and sounds a little bit similar to the comms coordinator, but different. So this person communicates public-facing updates via social media and our web platforms. So they're communicating directly to customers any information that could impact service. And so a same thing that could include any ad hoc detours that are taking place, delays, unplanned service disruptions, canceled trips. During special events, they're sending information out to customers. So this person is very important when there are service disruptions of some sort, because we rely on that person to communicate as quickly as possible to customers. And then the last area of the room I'll mention, very, very important, right at the back of the room, and it's kind of elevated so they can see the whole area. This is our TOCC superintendent area. And the superintendent in the room, they're the boss. They're the boss in the room. So they are providing oversight of everything that's going on. They are coordinating everything between all the different kind of functional groups in there. And really, like, they're keeping it all together. We refer to them, really, they are the quarterback of the room in there. Very, very important position. They are experts in both bus and rail operations. And these superintendents all came from, they were either a controller or a transit supervisor, or either the bus or rail side before. They were all in that role before. They are experts in managing service, and they are absolute stars, providing leadership 24 hours a day in the room.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's kind of what the room, that's kind of what the room looks like.
Okay, so now that we've got a very vivid picture of what the room looks like, we actually also have an audio clip of what the TOCC sounds like.
TNX Sigan Comcataya, CR main line over. Understood. You're looking for an immediate right-of-way access from signal 202 to knot 2 to signal 205 to knot 5. Is that correct? Over. Are you happy with my protection?
That was fascinating. So I speak English. What was that language that they were speaking?
Okay. All right. So in this clip, the signal and communications technician, the SIG and comms tech, has requested an immediate right-of-way access to perform an inspection inside what we call the right-of-way on line 2. And so as the rail controller, Melissa is responsible for applying what we call track protection. And track protection is what we put in. This is what prevents trains from entering the area where the technician will be. In this case, as is mentioned in the clip, it's between signals 202 and 205. And that covers the section from Dow's Lake to Corso Italia stations. So when she asks, "Are you happy with my protection?" she's speaking to another diesel rail controller who's right beside her in the TOCC. And this is an additional safety measure we put in place to verify that the mainline controller has provided the correct level of protection for that track authority, and ultimately to ensure those workers from TNext on the right-of-way are kept very safe. And so
this is for maintenance workers who are on the track doing work on one of the trains.
Yes.
Okay.
No, not on the train.
Oh.
No, it's in between trains. So they are going to a territory that's right in the right-of-way, so very close to the track, in between two stations. And there is no trains coming at the time. And so this was timed very strategically. So we would work with TNext to do this only at a time. They're going in there for a very short period of time, probably just a few minutes. And so line 2 trains operate every 12 minutes. So we would strategically work with our rail controllers would strategically work with TNext when they make these requests to do these assessments, and to give them this right-of-way access in between when trains are in that area.
Okay.
Yes.
This is fascinating. Thank you so much for deciphering that audio clip for us.
Yeah.
I felt like I was listening to, it is essentially ground control for OC Transpo. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to carry on. So once the protection is verified by that second diesel rail controller, Melissa issues the track authority to the technician over the radio. And after the technician correctly repeats the authority back to her, which is a requirement for that person to do, it's to ensure understanding between the two. She provides a repeat time. So that's the exact time that that technician is getting the track authority. And as soon as she gives that repeat time, the technician may access the track. So they'll only be there for a couple of minutes. This process, we go through this process again when we remove the track access. That would only be probably maybe a few minutes from that point.
Okay, fantastic. I love how we've talked about so many different things. You've talked us through major events that happen in the city. We're talking about the actual center itself. I want to take us back outside. Let's go back outside, because you mentioned you were talking about detours when we were talking about events. You mentioned that we experience a number of storms, major events in the city. There's construction. There's lots of reasons behind detours. And so I'm curious. You also mentioned public address. So what what is the process to notify bus operators and customers of any type of service adjustment?
Right. So specifically, if we're talking about an unplanned detour that's taking place, these occur every day. And something our bus controllers have to respond to very quickly. So, like, there's a number of ways that we would get information about these types of incidents or issues that require a detour. So we could receive calls directly from other bus operators that are out there. They're coming across a street or a road that requires a detour that they can't follow the regular routing on. Or we could see something on our CCTV cameras that would require a detour implemented. Or in some cases, we get information from our SCU comms area, also in the control room. They might get a call from OPS or Ottawa Fire. They might contact our Special Constable Unit advising us there's police activity on a certain street or a working fire, and that we have to stay off certain streets. So when that happens, for those specific ones, the SCU communications officers would provide that info to our bus controllers. So once we're aware of any of those unplanned street closures, our bus controllers have to action those very quickly. And they have to create a detour plan. And usually they will contact an on-street supervisor, because those supervisors work in zones out there, and they would know that territory very, very well. And so they would work together to create a detour plan. Those decisions have to be made very quickly, because there's likely buses coming very, very, very soon. So once we've determined the detour routing, we contact the bus operators of the impacted routes over the radio to advise of the detour, and we might send them onboard messaging just of what the new routing will be for a specific route. So also very important, once we determine that detour, also, we need to get that information to our customer communications officer who works in the TOCC. So that's the person who is communicating out to customers via social media or the website of any unplanned detours, because we want customers to know about those as well as soon as possible. That's especially important if there are service stops that are impacted by the detour, as we don't want customers waiting at a service stop for a bus that's not going to be coming. We would also, if that does happen, if there are impacted service stops that we can't get to, we would also be requesting our on-street supervisors would attend those impacted service stops, and they would put what we call a stop not in use sign. So that's basically a sticker that we put up on somewhere at the service stop, where it's visible for passengers, and it says, "This stop is not in service right now. Please go to this location," and the supervisor would handwrite where the closest service stop is to that one that has been removed from service. If the detour was required due to police activity or working fire or something like that, we would keep in contact with our Special Constable Unit for information, for updated info, as they are typically the OC Transpo point of contact for anything like that. And when the detours are no longer required, we contact all the impacted operators over the radio to advise, and we will also notify our customer communications officer. And then we will also reach out to the on-street supervisor to remove those stop not in use signs.
I've seen those signs, and gosh, what a process to imagine all the work that goes into setting up a detour, etc. I'm building a lot more understanding and empathy for all the work that goes on behind the scenes to make this whole system run. So one of the reasons for a detour, you mentioned storms, and winter is coming. We've already entered the winter season, so of course that's on everyone's minds. And so for the TOCC specifically, how do you prepare and respond to winter weather events?
Yes. So managing weather events, that is a very big part of what we do in the control room. And we've already seen a couple of weather events just over the last couple of weekends here in November, early so far this year. But we've had a couple of the last two weekends that have had an impact on service that we had to manage quite closely. So our team monitors the weather forecasts very closely. We have very prescriptive standard operating procedures that we follow to ensure that we provide the best service possible during these circumstances. So for any winter weather that is approaching, the TOCC issues like a severe weather level that's based on kind of the characteristics of the winter weather that's coming. So it could be the number of centimeters of snow that's coming, or it could be how quickly it's coming down, or it could be freezing rain. And so the reason I say that, so different winter weather conditions impact our service in different ways. And so snow that comes down quickly, or if there's a lot of it, or if it comes down wet, that has a really negative impact on our bus service and can cause buses to become immobilized or stuck, especially our articulated buses. Freezing rain, on the other hand, that's a really big concern, not so much for bus service, but that's a really big concern for our Line 1 service, Confederation Line. As high amounts of freezing rain over a lengthy period of time could possibly cause ice buildup on the overhead catenary system. And in conditions like those, we may choose to operate what we call storm trains. So that's where we run trains out of service, but we run them all night long just to make sure those OCS wires keep clear. Yeah, and so when conditions are at a level that would see us in a scenario where we are expecting, say, for example, up to 30 centimeters of snow, our team would lead bus and rail coordination meetings, so at least 24 hours beforehand, and we would include internal groups at OC Transpo, such as our fleet maintenance team, our rail operations, bus operations, our communications groups, as well as our rail maintainers, that's RTM for Line 1 and T-Next for Lines 2 and 4. And some of the measures we would take include trying to reduce the number of articulated buses that we have out on the road in service. And we would try to replace them with smaller 40-foot buses that handle the snow better and are less likely to become immobilized. We would increase the number of service trucks we have out on the street to try to be prepared for if there's a quick response we need to for any buses that may become stuck. We would also bring in extra controllers to handle a much higher call volume from bus operators than what we would normally have.
So you're quite prepared for winter.
We are quite prepared, yes.
Yeah.
And I should say too, we also work quite closely with our communications team. We really want to message out if we think there's going to be an impact to customers. If we think we're going to be running behind schedule on some of those nasty winter days, we want to make sure that we communicate out as best we can. Yeah. And so I just mention a couple of things. So when it exceeds, say, that 30 centimeter mark, we also implement what we call our extreme winter storm schedule. And so that's something we have only done actually it was created a few years ago when we created this kind of plan. We went a few years where we didn't have any storms over 30 centimeters at one time. But last year we had 2 in February, and they were almost back to back within a few days in the middle of February. So when we implement this extreme winter storm schedule, we would greatly reduce the amount of service that we have out on the street, and it would be basically a level similar to what we would provide on a Saturday. So it's a lot less buses. And so the reason we do that, it's because it's just going to be, we know our buses are going to get stuck on a storm of that magnitude. So it's less buses out there. It's less buses getting stuck. And really what it does, it allows us to recover much quicker once the storm is over, and we can get back out to full service really quickly. So it allows us to be a bit more agile than what we normally could be if we were to send out all of our regular buses on it for a storm of that size.
I see.
Wow. So sounds like never a dull moment. Given all that, working in the TOCC, what's been your most memorable day working there?
Well, so I think some of the memorable days are these big winter storms are actually quite memorable, but sometimes in a not so good way. Those are really tough days. So, but on a more positive note, I would say like last Canada Days in general are usually very positive. But I'll say even Canada Day this year was very memorable. So it was the first Canada Day with lines 2 and 4 in operation. So that was really big. That was really big for us, really big for the city as well. And there was also a new operations plan that was put in place that allowed us to utilize Pimisi Station to its fuller potential. And the day ran really, really well. It was the highest single passenger ridership day ever recorded at OC Transpo, and all modes of transit ran really well. So our bus service, our paratranspo service, as well as rail service on lines 1, 2, and 4 all ran extremely well. And within the TOCC team specifically, all employees have to work that day. Everyone is scheduled to work on Canada Day. And so there really is a strong sense of teamwork in place on that day. Everyone is working together, supporting each other, trying to provide the best service possible. So it just was a really positive day, just good feeling to successfully move so many people throughout the day. Especially after the fireworks at LeBreton, thousands of people are looking to get on a train or a bus all at one time. And we moved them really, really well and really efficiently this year. Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Wow.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Brad, for sharing everything that you have about the TOCC and helping us understand what goes on behind the scenes.
It's really impressive.
Isn't it? Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So listeners, this is the end of the podcast, but it's not the end of the conversation. Remember to visit ottawa.ca for more information about the programs you've heard about here. And always be on the lookout for upcoming announcements about more City of Ottawa podcasts. And that's when we OttaTalk about something completely different. And to play us out, here is a little bit more of Elevation by John Dorsch.